Company.
Tonight on Ctv3 News, tragedy strikes near Bladen Village as two siblings are killed in fatal car crash. Another deportation flight arrives in Belize with approximately 13 Belizean nationals. And public service union members reject government's wage proposal and declare a trade dispute. These are some of the stories we have for you tonight in our newscast for Monday, June 9th, 2025.
It is truly a proud and historic moment for us here in San Ignacio. It gives me great joy to welcome you all to the official opening of the very first wooden basketball court in our community.
The cost of the project in completion was about $200,000. Honorable Mala was willing to assist us with this project. This is a huge, huge investment for us.
There can be serious development through sports, especially if the right foundation, having the right facilities are in place. Then the programs follow. We can't put the carriage front of the house by having the programs, but we only have outdoor facilities. Belize rain 6 months out of the year, and having outdoor facilities is just not enough.
Our focus is going to be on education because that's a part of using sports as a vehicle to get as many of our athletes to international schools to play football, basketball, volleyball, track, whatever it is. The other thing is health. 33% of our people are afflicted by diabetes, hypertension, or some ailment like that. And those things can be prevented. So we want to create again the facilities where people can go exercise, have fun.
Electricity is essential for everyday life, but behind every outlet, a lot is happening to bring you safe, reliable, and sustainable energy. Let's start at the beginning. Independent power producers across Belize generate electricity using a mix of renewable and non-renewable resources. Electricity travels across a network of high-voltage transmission lines capable of transmitting electricity across long distances. Electricity then reaches your nearest substation, where it is adjusted to a lower voltage, making it safe to travel on the distribution lines you see in your community. From there, electricity makes its final journey from the distribution lines to your home, providing you with safe and reliable power when you need it. Belize Electricity Limited. We continue to serve you.
Good evening. With your news, also simulcast on Fiesta FM 106.7. I am Joanna Rodriguez. Authorities have launched a criminal investigation following serious allegations of sexual abuse reported by a woman and her 12-year-old daughter. The incident was brought to the attention of police on June 5th when a mother and her daughter visited the Corozal police station to file a report. According to the complainant, the alleged abuse occurred over several years. She claimed that her stepfather inappropriately touched her during June 2019 and forced her to engage in appropriate contact. Furthermore, she stated that her stepfather had engaged in sexual relations with her on at least 3 occasions, including sometime in 2019 and twice in 2025.
Her mother visited the female minor, along with her mother, visited the Corozal police station on 29 May and reported that her stepfather had sexual intercourse with her in 2019 and also in 2025. A medical examination was conducted on the female minor, where it was confirmed that she has been carnally known. Police investigation into this incident continues, whereby statements are being recorded from persons who police believe would aid in this investigation.
Has the stepfather been detained as yet?
As a part of the investigative process.
But no charges levied as yet?
No charges levied as yet.
A devastating traffic accident occurred this Sunday evening along the Thomas Vincent Ramos Highway near Bladen Village in the Toledo district, resulting in the deaths of 2 young siblings and leaving another man injured and hospitalized. The collision took place sometime around 5:30 p.m. between miles 62 and 63 when a brown Wingo pickup truck lost control and overturned into a roadside drain. According to police reports, the vehicle was en route from Medina Bank to Bella Vista when the driver apparently encountered difficulties that caused the vehicle to flip. Emergency services responded swiftly to the scene, where they discovered the overturned truck and its occupants. Tragically, 21-year-old Sydney Montenegro Ruiz and her 20-year-old brother, David Luis Montenegro, were found unresponsive. Despite efforts to revive them, both were pronounced dead upon arrival at the Southern Regional Hospital. It is believed that Sydney was ejected from the vehicle during the crash, and she was found motionless a short distance from the wreckage. The other passenger, a 42-year-old teacher named Asion Tosh from Independence Village, sustained serious injuries in the incident. He is currently receiving medical care at a local hospital.
So far, the investigation has revealed that the vehicle containing the occupants and being driven by Juan was heading from Medina Bank towards Bella Vista Village, where upon arriving at the aforementioned location, the driver lost control of the vehicle, causing it to flip several times. The scene of the accident has been processed and an inspection is slated to be carried out on the vehicle to ascertain what, if any, clarity it can provide in relation to the cause of the accident. We do not have any clear indication of that so far. However, we can confirm that alcohol bottles were viewed on the scene.
The Montenegro siblings had spent a day swimming at Bladen River and were heading back to Bella Vista Village. Sydney Montenegro gained recognition as an exceptional footballer after joining Rumberas and later Sagitun Girls in 2023. Their team secured the Premier Women's League of Belize title on May 31st, earning the opportunity to represent Belize at the upcoming UNCACAF tournament in July. And tonight, the Belize football community is mourning the heartbreaking loss of Sydney Montenegro Luis and her brother David Luis Montenegro, who, as mentioned, tragically passed away in a road accident on Sunday evening near Bladen Village in the Toledo district. In a heartfelt statement, the Football Federation of Belize, FFB, expressed their sorrow, saying, "Tonight the football family mourns." The Federation extended their deepest condolences to the families, friends, teammates, and everyone touched by the lives of Sydney and David. Sydney, a dedicated and talented footballer, was celebrated for her contributions on the field. The FFB highlighted her achievements, including leading her team to victory in the Premier Women's League of Belize, PWLB. Just recently, on May 31st, Sydney celebrated a significant milestone, winning the league championship, which earned her team the privilege of representing Belize at the upcoming UNCAF tournament scheduled for July. The Federation described Sydney as someone whose presence radiated love, joy, and a contagious smile. Her passion for the sport and her vibrant spirit left a lasting impression on all who knew her. David, her brother, was recognized as her greatest supporter and constant companion. Notably, he had graduated from Independence High School just the day before the tragic accident. Both Sydney and David made Belize their home and touched many lives through their warmth, passion, and unwavering dedication. Their loss leaves a void in the hearts of the football community and beyond, prompting an outpouring of grief and remembrance for their vibrant spirits, said the FFB. Last week saw a major escalation of protest actions by members of the Belize National Teachers Union, who are currently engaged in active negotiations with the government as they seek an 8.5 salary adjustment, among other labor demands. Last week, teachers across the country began to engage in acts of civil disobedience as they blocked different major roads across the country at different times. The first of these actions on Wednesday in the South was met by police resistance, which ended in a number of teachers being charged. Those charged, however, were ultimately dropped following a sit-down between the Commissioner of Police and BNTU National President Nadia Callis on Friday. That meeting, according to Campo, was to establish a mutual understanding with the BNTU to conduct any industrial action within the confines of the law.
Well, I believe the meeting was productive, it was fruitful. We recognize that the plight that the teachers and the unions and the public officers are going through. But our discussion mainly centered about doing their protests within the context of the law and within the ensuring that we have an open dialogue moving forward. And the unions have committed to having an open dialogue. We also recognize that the situation in Dangriga, as highlighted by the union, was an anomaly in respect to all other demonstration across the country. For the most part, the unions have been peaceful in terms of doing their demonstration, and we welcome that, and we ask them to continue to dialogue with us.
The charges against the teachers in the South, according to Campo Rosado, was dropped after new evidence was brought to light.
How would you respond? Consideration made when you decided to drop these charges?
Well, the union brought to us additional evidential material for us to consider in our deliberation to withdraw the charges.
Campo Rosado today also clapped back at President of the PSU, Dean Flowers, who criticized the Campo's actions to bring charges against members of the BNTU.
How would you respond to the PSU president sort of calling you out, saying that you're weaponizing the police department, that he called you a puppet? You know, it was a plethora of commentary against you.
It is difficult, or I should say, I should be careful in what I will say, but it is difficult for me to respond to someone who does not understand the dynamics of policing, who does not understand the challenges in policing. I believe that individual just wants to spew nonsense for his own aggrandizement. But I want to ask you in the media to ask him how his phone number connected to him is linked to a high-profile investigation involving public officers.
And talking about the Public Service Union, in a decisive expression of discontent, the majority of Belize's essential workers have rejected the government of Belize's latest offer amid ongoing negotiations over a $6 minimum wage increase and an 8.5 salary hike for public officers. On Thursday evening, the unions received a counter-offer from GOB, which saw an increase in the government's initial 3% increase to 4% with the cabinet's approval. This new offer comes with conditions including a contributory pension scheme and the retirement age being adjusted to 60. The 4% adjustment would become effective October 1st, 2025, and would also include an additional increment at the start of the 2026-2027 fiscal year of a further 4.5% salary increase and a second increment to be phased in over the subsequent 2 fiscal years. This latest proposal by the government, however, does not come with some conditions, which includes the implementation of a contributory pension scheme for new government workers, including an increase in the retirement age to 60 starting October 1st, 2025. A similar scheme for existing workers will be expected to follow, pending a comprehensive salary review. Another contingent is a mutual agreement on measures to achieve cost savings and boost government revenue, as well as the implementation of appropriate measures to link salary increases and increments to satisfactory job performance. But GOB's response to the joint unions negotiation team, JUNT, was met with strong opposition from the PSU members. According to a circular from the union, the workers, including school wardens, security officers, janitors, cleaners, watchmen, and general laborers, many of whom are classified as undervalued essential workers, have made their stance clear through a recent vote. Circular states that 94.35% of members voted to reject the government's offer, while 5.4% accepted the proposal. And then 91.94% supported declaring a trade dispute effective June 10, 2025, and 8.06% opposed the trade dispute declaration. In accordance with the mandate from union members, the Public Service Union PSU is taking immediate action. The union has formally notified the government of its rejection of the current offer and is evoking Section 11 of the Settlement of Disputes in Essential Services Act by submitting a declaration of trade dispute to the Minister of Labor. As part of this process, union leaders will personally deliver the trade dispute declaration to the Minister of Labor. Coming up next, nationwide police training enhances mental health response skills to improve crisis care and offer well-being. Stay tuned.
Attention farmers. The New World screwworm is a serious threat to livestock, pets, wildlife, and humans. It causes yield losses, damages the quality of meat and skins, and can even kill them if left untreated. Check your animals daily. If you see any wounds on them, treat them immediately. Prevention is key. Apply approved healing and fly repellents to the navel of newborn animals after dehorning, ear tagging, or any other practice that leaves wounds on your animals to ensure your animals' well-being. If you notice worms in unusual wounds, report them immediately. Call Baja at 824-4872 or text or WhatsApp 670-7003 or call your nearest Ministry of Agriculture office. And don't forget, never transport or receive animals with injuries. Together, we will prevent the spread of this dangerous disease. This message was brought to you by Baja, OIRSA, AICA, USDA, and the Ministry of Agriculture, Food Security, and Enterprise.
Every smile, every hug, every step our children take is a precious gift. For 50 years, vaccines have been the shield protecting those moments, saving 6 lives every minute around the world. That's 8,000 lives a day. Thanks to Vaccination Week in the Americas, 1.2 billion people have been vaccinated across more than 40 countries. In 2024, we celebrated 30 years without polio and reaffirmed our region's status as measles-free. But there's still more to do. For 2030, PAHO has set the goal of eliminating more than 30 communicable diseases. This goal is about caring for our future and for our communities, our health systems, and boosting socioeconomic progress. One of our top priorities is to become the first region in the world to eliminate cervical cancer, a disease that took more than 40,000 lives in 2022 alone in the Americas. To this end, PAHO supports countries in reaching at least 90% vaccination coverage rate for the human papillomavirus in girls under 15 years of age. Also, some countries are already vaccinating boys, which will help achieve the overall goal. But there are still children and adolescents without access to vaccines. We need urgent support from our leaders, our communities, and from each individual. No child, no one should suffer or die from a disease that we know how to prevent. Why is getting vaccinated essential? Because each person vaccinated is a life saved, a step closer to individual, family, and community development. Because your decision makes a difference. For those you love, for the future, for your health, and for the good of your country and our region.
Another flight carrying Belizean deportees arrived in Belize this past Thursday. The aircraft, which touched down at the Philip Golson International Airport, carried approximately 13 Belizeans. The individuals on board were removed from the United States as part of the deportation efforts that have intensified under the Trump administration. Authorities and immigration officials received the deportees upon arrival, providing support and processing their reintegration into Belizean society.
Yes, we can confirm that a flight came in with approximately 13 individuals. One compliance letter was issued. The other persons were not issued with compliance letter.
What do you mean by compliance letter?
This is the letter that is provided for under the Summary Jurisdiction Offences Act, which requires the deported person to sign in at a station that is convenient to their address for a period as stated in the letter.
And the rest, they're free from that? They don't have to sign in?
No, they were not issued with compliance letters.
Was there any, so is that to say there was no detentions on this flight, individuals that may have been wanted by police and were arrested upon arrival?
No information in that regard. As a follow-up to the previous flight, wherein Mr. Jody Ramdas was detained, Mr. Ramdas is currently at the Colby Foundation on the strength of a commitment warrant as a consequence of a matter that he had before the court. and he's pending applications for bail revocation as the conditions in relation to that bail included the fact that he should have signed in and he ought not to have left the jurisdiction.
Can you say if anything was considered to treat these deported individuals differently this time around? Any changes made based on observations from the last time? High police presence, carted off in a bus, etc. Any considerations were made in terms of the approach this time around?
Yes, certainly the first incident was a novel one, and the facts as they pertain on individuals on this occasion certainly directed and informed police's approach.
75 police officers from across the country are currently engaged in a 4-day training of trainers on the revised Mental Health Training Manual Police Officers Training Guide, focusing on mental health interventions. The training being led by the Ministry of Health and Wellness in collaboration with the World Health Organization and PAHO in Belize seeks to equip the police officers with the critical skills needed to care of their mental health, respond effectively to individuals experiencing mental health crisis, and provide further training to police officers countrywide. As mental health continues to be a priority for the Ministry of Health, particularly in times of crisis, the need for comprehensive care, including self-care, early intervention, and effective response strategies has never been more urgent.
Okay, today is the first day of a 4-day training workshop for police officers. We are doing a training of trainers on the revised mental health training manual. The first manual was developed in 2007, so that's quite a few years ago. And as we move along, situations change. We are looking more at the human rights of people. We have also moved away from placing patients in institutions, and we work from a community type based of service. So the revised manual will consist of components in teaching the police officers on learning about the different mental health disorders, the signs and the symptoms, how they, as they conduct their daily duties out there on the streets, interacting with people, how they can be able to recognize when someone is suffering from a mental disorder, how they should be approaching the persons with a mental disorder, and also de-escalating skills in order for them to be able to de-escalate situations rather than for situations to become confrontational, and eventually sometimes it leads to the loss of life. So mainly that is what the training will consist of. And we have a new component in the manual on self-care, because we are teaching them that it is important for them to be mentally well. They do face a lot of different situations on a daily basis. They're responding to crimes, murders, different things that does affect their mental wellness. And therefore, it is important for them to be mentally well before they can be able to provide a service.
The ongoing training, according to Mental Health Coordinator with the Ministry of Health, Yvette Quintanilla, is keen on addressing gaps in response to mental health crisis and focuses on the multidisciplinary approach to mental health interventions by law enforcement.
All right, so to give you a little context about what we're doing, we have started working with the Ministry of Health, and when I say we, I mean the PAHO WHO, as a technical cooperation agency to see how we could strengthen generally improve outcomes for mental health in the country. So we started by doing a legislative review at the request of the country, where we try to look at the mental health laws to make sure that the advancements that the Ministry of Health and the country they're trying to make, we have the legislative support for those advancements. So right now we're reviewing the Unsoundness of Mind Act for the country. And while we were conducting the consultations as part of that process, we did some work with the police, and in interacting with the police, we realized that in terms of mental health, they identified, areas for their own self-care, their own mental health. Police men and women every day face a lot of traumatic situations, and we think that because they're police, we forget the human element. And as a result, we felt that being able to work with them first to look at their own mental health needs, and then to be able to see how they in turn can work with other members of the society, particularly people with mental health conditions when they're in crisis. Because we've had a lot of challenging kinds of reports, that we would see in the media about police trying to make interventions and de-escalate crisis. So we thought putting all those issues together as a package would be able to help police to better do their work in terms of their own health, and to be able to work with other individuals in the community as part of responding to multidisciplinary team. So the training this week is geared to be able to strengthen those skills, to be able to intervene in crises, but most of all, to help them to recognize when they need support and intervention, and what are the everyday things that they need to be taking care of themselves. So basically, that's what we're trying to do this week.
And while the training seeks to equip officers with needed skills to handle mental health issues, Country Officer for PAHO, Karen Roberts, says it is not to have them replace the role of health professionals in this important issue.
We have different people doing different things. We know that the main role of the police is law enforcement, law and order. And when we think about intervening in crises, remember that people with mental health conditions, these are people who are ill. And sometimes the tendency is to feel that they know exactly what they're doing, but because of the nature of their condition, many times they themselves, they might see the police as the enemy and so on. And as a result, we think that if police officers can understand the disease progression and what it is that's responsible for them behaving and acting in certain ways, then it helps them to be able to better intervene. And we don't want that the intervention first to be that of force, but police officers should be able to recognize certain signs and so on. They're not making a diagnosis, but at least they're able to recognize when something is wrong. And as a result, the intervention that they will make will not be an intervention like, for instance, somebody who just chooses to do something that's against the law. And that is what we want police officers to be knowledgeable of, and to be able to develop the skills, what to say. We know that in a crisis, it depends on what you say, sometimes can escalate rather than de-escalate.
How you say it.
And yes, and how you say it, and how you actually intervene, and so on. So those are some of the things that we want to be able to go through with them this week, but not with a view of making them health care providers, because we want the police to be able to do their role and the healthcare providers to do their role, as well as the other categories of professionals.
This training, according to Compol Dr. Richard Rosado, is crucial to allow officers the opportunity to acquire the tools necessary to recognize potential mental health crises before they escalate, while maintaining their own mental health and well-being.
I want to acknowledge the Ministry of Health and Wellness, the PAHO organization, and the Mental Health Unit for recognizing, along with our department, the police department, for recognizing that after 2 decades, the mental health manual, the mental health policy for the department need revision. A revision that require a holistic approach, a revision that require concerted approach, and hence the reason we're here today.
What does this mean for the men and women in uniform in terms of being able to perhaps now look at a revised policy as it regards their mental health?
Well, the revision is more than just procedural adjustment. It's a recognition that we are moving towards a more progressive department, a department that requires a more balanced approach that balances public safety and human dignity. The manual recognize that there is a need for the police department to develop the discernment to recognize a crisis, a mental health crisis. It will develop their skills to safely de-escalate the situation, and it also develop that or give them that ability to be able to connect or refer those mental health patients to the necessary mental health care partners.
The training is expected to conclude on Thursday of this week. The state of emergency, which was imposed in areas of Belize and the Cayo districts back in May, has expired, and today the Commissioner of Police officially declared the exercise as a success, citing a significant reduction in gang-related activities and violent crimes over the past several weeks. In an interview with the media today, Commissioner Dr. Richard Rosado reported that since the implementation of the SOE, there has been a noticeable calm across neighborhoods previously plagued by gang rivalries. The SOE, according to the Compol, also gave authorities the necessary time to properly investigate open cases.
I believe the state of emergency was a necessary measure that we needed to take. It was a necessary measure that is within the legal framework in order for us to address the critical situation at the time. And it has now given us the opportunity to put things in place to be able to more proactively address the crime situation on the grounds.
I know one of the main reasons too was to continue with the investigations that were ongoing. Were there many arrests made during that time?
Yes, I am happy to say that during that time it allowed the investigators to also conduct their investigation without any hindrance from the criminal elements, and we have seen that during that time they made 3 arrests of 3 violent crimes, including 2 murders.
The state of emergency was declared back in early May following a surge in gang-related shootings, which created heightened fear among citizens. Authorities swiftly moved to detain key players believed to be orchestrating the violence. Prime Minister John Briceño participated in a significant international dialogue during the 8th session of the CIDS-DOC Secretariat held alongside the United Nations Ocean Conference. The event, which takes place from June 9 to the 13th, convened global leaders and stakeholders to discuss urgent issues facing small island developing states, SIDS, with a particular emphasis on leveraging ocean resources for sustainable progress. During his address, Prime Minister Briceño highlighted the critical importance of ocean-based services for SIDS to achieve key Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, specifically Goal 7, affordable and clean energy, 9, industry innovation and infrastructure, 13, climate action, and 14, life below water. I delivered our remarks at the 8th session of the CIDS-DOC Secretariat, Briceño stated. The opening session focused on the critical services SIDS needs from ocean to achieve SDGs 7, 9, 13, and 14, and to strengthen economic and physical resilience to climate change. In addition to the Prime Minister's speech, he joined Minister for the Blue Economy Andrew Paris in a ministerial panel discussion featuring leaders from various small island developing states. The panel explored innovative ocean-based solutions, particularly in renewable energy, as vital tools in fostering sustainable development and enhancing resilience against climate impacts. This high-level dialogue was part of the broader framework of the Global Ocean Energy Alliance, a flagship initiative of UNO-C3 aimed at accelerating marine renewable energy projects for nations most vulnerable to climate change. The conference serves as a platform for international cooperation, fostering partnerships and advancing strategies to harness ocean energy in support of climate resilience and sustainable growth for island nations. Former President of the Public Service Union, PSU, Gerald Henry, staged a solo protest this morning in front of the Ministry of Public Service in Belmopan, calling attention to unresolved grievances within the public sector, particularly concerning issues of promotions and performance appraisals. Henry, who once led the union's fight for better working conditions and transparent governance, returned to the forefront of industrial action, this time as an individual advocate. Standing with placards outside the ministry's headquarters, Henry voiced frustration over what he described as the continued marginalization and unfair treatment of public officers.
I think that we are pretty much exposing some of the things that a lot of our public officers are suffering in silence. Right? I know that I've spoken to several public officers, and they have told me that some of these very same issues with regards to not being promoted and being perfectly qualified and experienced, but they have been overlooked and superseded by those who are less experienced and less qualified, such as myself. No, I got my master's degree in 2016, and from the University of West Indies, and to date I have not been promoted. Right? I just recently, I think in April, submitted for promotion to the supervisor of audit position, and the Minister of the Public Service just outrightly rejected it, right? Without giving me any reason whatsoever, right? And that's despite the fact that I'm literally more qualified than the Auditor General right now, right? She got her purported master's degree in 2019, right? I got mine in 2016. Right, so that made me more qualified than her from back then. I am also 10 years her senior in the public service on a whole, and at least 7 years her senior in the audit department. Right, so how then can that person be, be superseded over me? Yeah. Right, what's actually the qualifying factor? Right, since according to the public service regulations, she's not more qualified than I am. Right, But those are some of the things, and one of
the issues of concern, Henry says public officers, including himself, are being deprived of meaningful growth within the public service without cause or explanation.
The other things that we are working on today is the performance appraisals grades. Right? As you may know, performance appraisal, as it states, is based on your performance, right? And the performance should be on the task that they assign to you, right, or to us. We, in 2022, we were told officially not to do any work in the office of the Auditor General. I mean, absolutely nothing. Myself, my colleague, and another colleague from Belize City, all three of us having master's degree, right? And we were told to do absolutely nothing in the office from October 18, 2022. Now the question is, so what would be my appraisal grade, right? Since I can do nothing perfectly, and that's the task that you gave me, to do nothing. So when the appraisal time came around, we were expecting to get the maximum, which is 10, right? Because the grading scale goes from 1 to 10. Much to our surprise, we actually got zeros, and that's on this placard right here. Yeah. Now, how can you give me 0 if on the form itself it says that the scale is from 1 to 10? What motivates you to give me a 0, right? When that is not even on the form, it's literally off the charts, right? So it obviously means that you have some personal bias, and if you have some personal bias, then that calls your character and your integrity into question, as far as I'm concerned, right? But that's the person that is the Auditor General currently. The Ministry of the Public Service, we wrote to the Public Services Commission, we wrote to Ministry of the Public Service, we have written all the way up to the Governor General of this country, asking, begging for them to look into the issues that we are going through as public officers, because a lot of people are suffering in silence. We are just the ones who decided to now voice it after we have tried every single avenue that we could think about.
And there is more news after the break. Stay tuned.
Today we stand at the threshold of progress, having witnessed the physical transformation of this laboratory into a cutting-edge facility that will enhance healthcare services in Belize.
This is an initiative that marks another key achievement of the European Union-funded Health Sector Support Program Belize project, one of the largest health sector initiatives in the country.
I would like to thank our implementing partners, the Pan American Health Organization and the Ministry of Health and Wellness for the remarkable work that you are doing in the implementation of this project.
With a total investment of over 1.1 million US dollars, including the installation of solar panels in the coming months, the Central Medical Laboratory now stands as a model of smart health infrastructure. These improvements go far beyond aesthetics. They address years of structural deterioration, fire damage, and operational limitations. From mold remediation and advanced air systems to new safety features, upgraded electrical and water systems, flood risk mitigation, energy efficient fixtures, and even an expanded working space. This facility now reflects the standard of care and preparedness that Belizeans deserve.
The government of Belize has issued a formal warning to the public and online gaming industry regarding false claims and misinformation surrounding online gaming licenses issued by Belize. Several online gaming websites have recently been found of falsely claiming to hold an online gaming license from Belize or spreading inaccurate information about the licensing process. The government emphasizes that all online gaming activities conducted within Belize are strictly regulated under the Gaming Control Act and require proper licensing from the Belize Gaming Control Board. However, the government also announced that Belize currently has a moratorium in place on issuing new online gaming licenses. As a result, no online gaming companies are presently licensed to operate from Belize, and no licenses will be issued until further notice. This measure is intended to ensure thorough review and regulation of online gaming operations, safeguarding the interests of consumers and maintaining the integrity of Belize's gaming sector. In light of these developments, the government urges all internet users to exercise caution and refrain from engaging with any entities claiming to possess a Belize online gaming license. Such claims are false, and any operations conducted without proper licensing are illegal and unauthorized. The Ministry of Investment and the Gaming Control Board advise the public to remain vigilant against fraudulent schemes and to verify licensing information through official channels. For more information regarding Belize's moratorium on online gaming licenses or to inquire about the licensing regime, interested parties are encouraged to contact the Ministry of Investment directly. The National Agriculture and Trade Show, NATS, was held on May 30th, 31st, and June 1st, 2025, under the theme Integrating Sustainable Food Systems, Mitigating Climate Change, Strengthening Agricultural Resilience. According to the Ministry of Agriculture, Food Security and Enterprise, this year's event welcomed and hosted over 34,042 visitors, regional delegates, and invited guests despite the hot weekend. The ministry reports that there were no major incidents reported in or around the grounds thanks to the tremendous work of the police and other security officials. As it pertains to the 2025 Ford Ranger pickup truck ticket, sales have resumed with the raffle now scheduled for July 11th, 2025. And that's the news. We invite you to join us for another newscast on Tuesday, June 10th, here on Ctv3 News and Fiesta FM 106.7. Remember that to read a text version of the news, you can visit our website at ctv3belizenews.com. You can also log on to our Facebook page for current stories at facebook.com/ctv3belizenews or our YouTube channel at Ctv3 News BZ. From all of us here at Ctv3 News, thank you for watching and listening. Good night.